This podcast is scheduled for one fall.
Whoa, who let you out of the basement? Let me do this. This podcast is scheduled for one fall, and I'm still not reading any of this other crap you wrote, so just click your buttons and start the show.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Gimmick Table. I'm your host, Matt, and I am joined by the most prolific public speaker since JFK. He is the lack of punctuation to my run-on sentence. It is Bats, everybody. How goes it today?
Ask not what this podcast can do for you, but what you can do for this podcast.
And what you can do for this podcast is go to our Patreon. No, Bats, we're not doing plugs for the Patreon, you jackass. What are you thinking? You know what? Texas is the reason. Why don't you go take a trip?
Huh?
What?
That
All right, guys.
made no sense.
Like Bats, time is running out for you too. Chances to win a $30 gift card to ProWrestlingTees.com just for supporting our friends at the 607 Strong Academy. All you got to do is go to GimmickTablePod.com/contest for your chance to win. I don't know why you wouldn't do it. It's free stuff. And we're less than 1 week away from Excite Wrestling on March 2nd, returning to the American Legion Post 80 in Binghamton, New York. It's going to be featuring Excite Wrestling champion Sean Carr defending his title against Joe Gacy, Greg Excellent, and Braxton Sutter. And let us not forget about the NWA heavyweight champion Nick Aldis when he defends his 10 pounds of gold against Slick Wagner Brown. And you can get your tickets at excitewrestling.com/shop. And if you can't make the show, you can stream it live on twitch.tv/excitewrestling at 7 p.m. And that's all taking place on March 2nd. And Bats, we're returning to the Pacific Northwest today with our guest. Are you ready? Can you do this? Are you capable of doing a podcast on a Saturday evening?
No.
No? I didn't think so. All right, everybody, please join us in welcoming to the Gimmick Table Max Burnside. How goes it today, Max?
Not too bad. How's it going with you guys?
Going pretty good. Actually nice to record on a weekend for once. We don't have to be so hectic after work, so it was nice. Got to actually prepare, get everything set up, not rush, and we still ended up starting late, but hey, it wouldn't be an episode of the Gimmick Table if we didn't start a little bit behind schedule. Thank you for joining us today. How are things going in the Pacific Northwest?
Things are booming. Probably within the last 5 years or so, a lot of big newer companies that have been making a statement here in the Pacific Northwest, and so and even down in northern Cali, I guess. PCW is making a pretty big name for themselves down there too. So when you see a lot of Pacific Northwest guys, they go down there a lot too. So.
All right, and we have had the opportunity to have a few people from the Pacific Northwest on the show, the Phoenix Kid, as well as Tectonic, who we know that you happen to know as well. And he had some words for you that I would like to share with you because I feel like it's only right. We spoke earlier today, had a conversation. Basically what he said, and I'm going to quote this verbatim, he said, "Yeah, I fucking love that guy. I hope he makes it big, goes out to Iowa or wherever, stays big, and then I'm going to get invited to destroy his face."
Oh, that he would say that, wouldn't he?
He would.
Oh, I fucking love that guy too. That guy is like my brother from another mother, that's for sure.
Oh, he's definitely an awesome guy, and
He's okay.
He's okay. I mean, I wouldn't mind kneeing his face off, but he's still like a brother to me. So,
I mean, if you want to do that so he can't put me through a table, I would be really thankful. I would appreciate that.
Although he is sneaky like the honey badger he is, and he may already have you in like a German suplex while I knee him, and then he just happens to have you in his arms while he puts you through a table. I mean, I don't know. There's wrestling ring can bring so many different situations out. That's one reason why I love it so much is you can plan something all day long. You can have so many different spots, but there's so many things that could just come about in a wrestling ring. So you never know.
The best strategy for me might just be to stay 3,000 miles away from tech at all times for the remainder of my human existence.
I'm gonna fly him out here.
With what money?
I got money. You don't know where my gold is,
if you buy a ticket, make sure you stay in the back.
I mean, just for the record, it took you how many weeks to pay your dues for the fantasy football league?
I mean, I just forgot.
You live right next door.
You could have came by when I had cash on me. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, man. I just kept forgetting. It's not really important that I give you $40.
Max, I think you should put my co-host here through a table for me while Tech's putting me through a table. Yes, please.
I don't want to go through a table.
That would mean that me and Tech would almost have to be in a tag team. He wants to destroy my face, and I want to knee his face off. So, I guess I'd have to put him through a table.
Put everybody through a table. Just let me slide out of the ring before anything happens.
Tectonic wants to be the Oprah of putting people through tables. You know? You get put through a table. You get put through a table. Everybody gets put through a table.
I'm just imagining him with Oprah's hair right now. Just a long, luscious wig on.
And there's pictures of him with the Oprah hair. I swear to God, he used to have it long. And I'll have him show you the pictures, or maybe you can go scope them out yourself. But it's quite funny that you say that.
We're going to have to find those.
Oh, yeah. Man.
Bring them back on the show for a third episode just so we can use that for the cover art.
Yes.
He's going to kill me.
I can't wait to write him after this and tell him, ha.
Oh, he'll definitely enjoy this.
Yeah.
Now, you kind of touched on it already, but can you kind of tell us, for anybody who's not familiar with the Pacific Northwest, what that whole scene is kind of all about?
Well, Pacific Northwest is mainly known for wrestling in Portland because of guys like my trainer's trainer, Playboy Buddy Rose, Ed Wiscoski, and even before that, guys like Don Owens that had Portland wrestling, and it had every big name from Flair to Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, Jesse Ventura. So when it comes to wrestling, the lineage in the Pacific Northwest is absolutely great. With that being said, the Pacific Northwest also is known for keeping its old school mentality, which can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing, I think. And I butt heads with my trainer all the time about this because I'm a firm believer in evolution. Things got to evolve and adapt, otherwise things die off. So the Northwest is known for keeping to its roots, and which is why a lot of awesome talent has come out of the Northwest, and especially lately, you can hear guys like Kyle O'Reilly that came out of All-Star Wrestling up in British Columbia, numerous amount of people that have toured through the Northwest. So when it comes to wrestling, I'm very proud to be from the Northwest and train from the Northwest because it resonates very far and very deep when you say names like Playboy Buddy Rose, Ed Wiscoski, the Young Bloods, Jimmy Snuka, who was big names up here. So if you don't know anything about wrestling in the Pacific Northwest, it's definitely a good thing to check it out. It'd definitely be a good notch on your wrestling history book. So
yeah, it's definitely important for people, I think, because I think a lot of the time that they get pigeonholed to wherever they live, what's ever kind of popular around there, and obviously what's in the mainstream. So sometimes they don't get the opportunity to see what's, on the opposite side of the country. And there's a lot of good stuff out there that people are missing.
Exactly.
Now, do you recall when you were first introduced to professional wrestling?
Oh, I was a kid, probably 6, 7 years old, and I remember watching. It's probably a little older than that, maybe 7, 8 years old. I remember watching Shawn Michaels on Monday Night Raw, and then I remember my first pay-per-view that I actually remember watching all the way through was the Valentine's Day Massacre. I think it was the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. I think that was the name of it. It was Hulk Hogan, or not Hulk Hogan, excuse me, Steve Austin and Vince McMahon in a steel cage match. And ever since then, I was pile driving my little sister through steel chairs and giving my parents the middle finger while telling them that the Stone Cold said so. So, yeah, it's probably some of my good early memories of wrestling was watching early Raw with Shawn Michaels before it went, like right before DX was really big. So
that's big for a lot of people, I think, especially as we see a lot of, the younger wrestlers in their 20s and their 30s. That whole Attitude Era has had such an impact on their style of wrestling, and I think you see a lot of that style does resonate in the independent scenes.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with guys like Chris Jericho, who went through more than just one promotion in the Attitude Era. Went through things with WCW and wrestled awesome guys like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and Jeff Jarrett, and then came over to WWE and made an even bigger statement. So, guys like Chris Jericho, if you ask, 9 times out of 10, any indie guy who's their greatest of all time or favorites list, if you don't have Chris Jericho on that list, then you're an idiot.
So when do you decide to go from just, being a spectator of wrestling to have that desire to actually step in the ring and perform?
Well, actually, I was kind of late to the party. I got first introduced to being able to be trained in wrestling. I was never around anybody that was kind of like I was, raised in Portland, where Portland wrestling was really big, and even Portland Wrestling Uncut, which was kind of like the revamped version. But even then, back then, it was still kind of like you had to know somebody, to want, or like, there was no schools. There was a few schools that I knew about, but I still didn't know. So, I got introduced, a buddy of mine, who was also a former professional wrestler. He is actually since retired. But he told me, hey, if you ever want to get into this, just let me know. I can get you hooked up into training. And within a few weeks of thinking about what he had said, I was like, yeah, I want, there's no doubt in my mind. So I got hooked up with a guy that had a wrestling ring in his backyard and, or like in his barn. And I took my first bumps, and ever since then, it's been nothing but looking kind of tunnel vision with nothing but wrestling in sight.
That's awesome. And tell us kind of what were those first bumps like for you, that first day of training?
Well, it was actually technically a boxing ring that I took my bumps in, so it was actually a lot stiffer than some of the bumps that I've taken in real wrestling rings. So it was definitely hard. And actually, my first day, I actually dislocated my left knee, popped back into place. But that was only because I didn't do something correct. But even that didn't stop me. I had, I went to the doctor. They said it's all good. Just, I just had to work it out more. And of course, hit the gym, did all that good stuff. So I've never had a problem ever since. But finally got some real training after, kind of messing around with some of the wrestlers at another buddy's house, and then finally getting into real training with my trainer, Cameron Starr, who, like I said, is one of the last pupils of Playboy Buddy Rose. So that's when I felt like that I was actually getting the true knowledge of what it means to be a worker, and especially a worker nowadays. So pretty much the ins and outs, what to do, what not to do. So, yeah. So it took a little bit for me to get here, but, I'm fashionably late,
But hey, as long as you do it in style and you're having fun while you get there, what's it matter?
Exactly.
It's kind of interesting that, you went from starting off in a barn, in a boxing ring, and then actually getting to the opportunity to go to a real school. What was it like when you went to the real school and just saw the difference between where you had started?
It definitely gave me a lot more confidence. It was way easier for me to realize that this was something that I was meant to do. So learning real moves and doing real drills was the absolute mind-opening experience for me, to be like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to surround my life with. And I don't want to do anything else. So, yeah.
And how long does it take you to go from, starting at the school to eventually your debut match?
It took me about a year, a little less than a year. It took me about a year because I had some training with a few guys that were workers, but it wasn't, an actual professional school. So I knew how to do some stuff. So it was easy for me to advance in some stuff a little bit quicker. But little things like crowd interaction and just the little things that matter when you're working in front of a crowd. It took me a little bit longer to learn, so probably a little less than a year once I actually stepped out of the training.
The whole part about the crowd, because that's what a lot of people that we've talked to have said, is that's, well, the in-ring work, it's challenging, but it's something that eventually most people can grasp. But the whole other side of getting over with the crowd and working on who you are as a performer, in the sense of the gimmick, is one of the most challenging aspects of wrestling.
Yeah. One thing that I've learned, too, and I'm still learning, because as a wrestler, I refuse to say that I'm not continuing learning, because if I'm not learning, I'm dead. So one thing that I enjoy about it is that I learn something new every single day. Doesn't matter what I'm watching, I learn something new every single day. So, yeah.
Well, it's definitely good to be growing. And speaking of your debut, what's going through your mind when you're right about to enter the ring for the very first time?
Well, I remember my heart racing, and then I remember listening to the music that I had picked, and I just there's a say it says the song that I picked was "Make Waves" by Tech Nine, and there's a saying that he says before the music hits, and it says, "Suit up, boot up, let's go." And so I said those words right before the music hit, and I just remember feeling nervous, anxious, and ready all at the same time.
And what was that first match experience like?
The first match experience, definitely hard to watch for me, only because now, of course, I've advanced, but it was one of those things that it's kind of hard to put into words, because you have to start somewhere, and it may be a struggle, and it may suck at first, but I'm glad that I did it where I did it, because it's made me not only the wrestler and the worker, but it's made me the person, that I'm ever so developing into becoming. So it's definitely hard to put into words, but it's definitely bittersweet.
Said it perfectly. With the whole, you got to start somewhere. It's got to feel great just to get that first match out of the way and see what you can do. It's not going to be perfect. You got a lot of work still to do, but it's one step that you've gotten up already. It's something that you've gotten out of the way, and you've been able to progress and grow enough to actually get in the ring and go from training to performing.
Absolutely.
Now, we did kind of touch on the gimmick a little bit earlier, and how it is one of the most difficult aspects of professional wrestling. You and I have also talked kind of about our common love for anarchism, autonomy, whatever you want to call it. How much does that play into your gimmick, your actual own personal beliefs and things like that?
100%. I have a saying tattooed across my chest, and it's "Revolution is my name and anarchy is my game," and it's kind of what I go by. And it's not saying that I'm just some sort of crazy person that just wants to, burn everything down and blah, make everybody pay and this and that and blah blah blah. Especially in this day and age when everything has to be so carefully said and carefully placed, because if you say anything in the wrong context at all, it gets perceived in something that you couldn't even imagine that somebody could have perceived it as. So that's one reason why I am so devoted 100% into putting myself into my persona, because that's me 100%. I believe that a revolution is upon us, and it's coming soon. But one thing that I'm not going to do is I'm not going to live my life by somebody else's terms. I'm not going to live my life by having somebody else tell me that this is what I need to do. There has been tribes for hundreds of thousands of years that have done exactly what we can't do as people. And so as a person, and especially now in the professional wrestling world, with everything from women's equality rights, don't even get me started on that. I even hate to call women's wrestling because it's wrestling. So with things like what's going on with the touchy subjects in the actual real world, and the fact that they're leaking into a world where, as a kid and as everybody who's a fan, if they don't admit this, then they're lying. Professional wrestling is a tool that we use to escape the reality. And so when we have reality leak into what we use to try and escape it, it becomes even more impossible to escape some of the crap that we are dealing with in the real world. Like I said, with we're in 2018 and we're still dealing with things like racism and gender equality, and things that I can't even think of because there are so many. So when it comes to being an anarchist, I firmly stand behind a big change and something different than what we have been doing. So as it pertains to my persona, I'm trying to leak the real world in a good way into professional wrestling to remind everybody, hey, we are in a crap time, and we live in a world where kids are dying in schools, and whatever the reason may be to fix it, it needs to be fixed. And there are other things that need to be addressed. And as somebody who is tired of going through my Facebook feed and seeing nothing but crap, and especially in the professional wrestling world, it definitely is something that's near and dear to me, to try and keep genuine, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense. And I think starting off with what you first said about the whole, people hear anarchism and they think, oh, they want to go throw bricks through buildings, they want to, burn things down. What people don't really understand, that anarchism is really about a collectivist group who understand that nobody's in charge and that they're all working towards progress. And if you really think about that,
Exactly.
if you have a tight-knit wrestling community and you have a bunch of people like that, it really is, like you said, a tribe working together to further themselves and professional wrestling.
Exactly.
And I mean, since you brought up the whole mainstream aspect, to put anarchism in a more mainstream term, it's pretty close to libertarianism. Everybody has the freedom to do whatever they want as long as they're not hurting anyone else.
Exactly.
Now, another thing we've kind of touched on too is growing in wrestling can be difficult. So how do you keep yourself motivated to continuously grow and not give up when things get hard?
I mean, especially after just talking about all of those topics, when the world's kind of pushing you down with its thumb, what's motivating me? What's motivating me is I want to be known as one of the best that has ever come out of the Northwest. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of workers in the Pacific Northwest that want to do the same thing that I want to do, and they want to be the best. And not everybody can be the best. So what motivates me more than anything is to prove exactly why it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as you didn't come from a crap backyard promotion, as long as you've had some formal training and you can work and you're a decent person and you're coachable and you can listen and you can take responsibility for your own actions. It doesn't matter where you come from as long as you know where you want to go. So my biggest motivation is to prove some people right and some people wrong. So being the best, obviously, is going to be everybody's answer, but how I do it is what is really motivating me to want to keep going forward when I don't feel like going forward.
That's a really good way to look at it. Why do you think you have that perspective, though, when a lot of other people that wouldn't go that route, they would go a path that everybody else has followed?
Well, it's and I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to badmouth anybody individually or an individual promotion, but where I had come from, it doesn't get a very good reputation just because of some of the people that are associated with it. And so, of course, guilty by association is one of the worst things ever. So, of course, getting in put in kind of like a bad pool of talent type of situation to where like, oh, my name's associated with a certain promotion, so like being talked about in a bad sense because I work at a certain promotion. Excuse me. It's giving me the perspective to always want to prove to people that, hey, I'm not, stereotypes are just stereotypes. Not everything, not everybody should listen to everybody. I think people should look into for themselves about certain things, especially with people. So I think the reason why I have the perspective I do is because I've always been looked down upon and I've always been doubted. I think that's why that I have the perspective that I do, is because I've kind of not been forced to, but I've had to evolve the way that I've thought about things. Otherwise, I would have quit a long time ago.
I mean, it's got to be hard, especially you're not the promotion. You can't speak for them. You are trying to live your dream. Sometimes those are the only opportunities you have, especially early on. So people, I think, really have to look and be able to look at you different from them. And it's good that you didn't give up, because a lot of people might have just said, you know what, fuck it.
Exactly. And I started training with a couple of friends, and both of them have had great potential. They still have great potential if they even still want to get back into it. But little things like that are the reason why they aren't wrestling anymore. So it's very unfortunate that people do give up instead of trying to break the stereotype and kind of break the glass ceiling of what everybody thinks of you, which is another motivation to want to be the best.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of people in their lives, have been doubted, and that really pushes them forward and gives them the ability on the days when they don't even, want to try anymore. Now, going back to when you first began to where you are now, how have you kind of seen yourself evolve, and what would you say to yourself back then?
I think I definitely would have told myself back then, because I had so many ideas, grand ideas about what I wanted to do with my persona and how I wanted to express what I wanted to express. And I think one big thing that I would have told myself back then now is calm down and just focus on wrestling, because my persona has kind of like came along, especially with getting doubted even more and this and that, and things in my personal life going on. So it's just other things that were kind of changing my perspective on other things. So if one thing that I would tell myself back then is to just calm down and just focus on wrestling, because your persona is going to come eventually and it's going to develop itself.
And was there a particular moment that you remember when you really felt fully confident in that persona and who you were at that point?
Not until recently, to be 100% honest. Probably about 2 months ago. Let's see, we're in almost the end of February. So yeah, about 2 months ago was when I felt 100% comfortable in what I was doing and how I was doing it, because I felt like that nobody was doing it. And I even noticed a couple of people that were changing the way that they were doing some things because I was doing things differently. Because I don't want to do anything that everybody else is doing, and I don't want to be like everybody else and a carbon copy of every wrestler that everybody has ever seen. That's not what wrestling is about. It's another form of expression. So, yeah.
No, definitely. And how does it feel that, like you said, you saw other people changing up? How does it feel to know that you're inspiring people to kind of also think outside of the box and not just, follow the norm and be, like you said, a carbon copy?
It makes me mad at first, only because I want to tell them stop biting on, quit hating on me, and then quit stealing my Kool-Aid, stop stealing my ideas. But at the same time, it is pretty cool that my message is actually getting out there. Once I do realize, hey, like, you're telling people to do something different, and people are doing something different, so you can't really get mad at people doing exactly what you want them to do. So I get mad at first, but then I realize that it's definitely going to be for the better, because I don't want to wrestle some boring Joe Schmo that does the same elbow drop that everybody has done for 150 years.
And what's it like been with the fans, though, at the same time? Because definitely you can do something different, and the fans may not always appreciate it, or it might not get over with them. How have you been able to get over with them?
Like I said before, how you say things and when you say them definitely play a key role in how people perceive you. So I definitely choose when to keep my mouth shut and when to open it up. And it's been easier for me to be more of a crowd pleaser, because I have just closed my mouth and opened up my ears and just listened to what everybody else is, in the crowd, and even fans across, numerous regions, that, people are tired of seeing the same stuff, and people are tired of people copying everybody. Everybody right now is kind of doing like, everybody loves the Bullet Club, and everybody should love the Bullet Club, but everybody else who isn't the Bullet Club should not be doing inter-promotional feuds, because Bullet Club is doing an inter-promotional feud type thing. So, yeah, it's just bittersweet, I guess.
Definitely, and it shows that, if the fans are appreciating it, that's the most important thing, because, at the end of the day, if there is no fans, there is no wrestling.
Exactly.
And also another thing, with what you had said earlier about the whole escaping reality, for a lot of people, especially the fans, that's a place for them to go and escape whatever shit is going on in their life and in the real world.
Exactly. And I don't know if you guys know, but Tectonic actually put up a poll a while ago. I don't know how many months ago it was, but he pretty much asked his followers, posted it up on the social media sites, why do you guys go to wrestling shows? And like 90% of everybody that answered, it wasn't because of storylines, it wasn't because of stupid angles, it was because of the fact that they were able to escape reality. So absolutely, and especially with the fan, with no fans, there's no reason why we do this. Otherwise, we're just doing it for the boys, and that can be fun and all, but that's not going to make us any money, and that's not going to bring us any attention to some of the topics and discussions that we want to have. So yeah, when someone comes to a wrestling show, they want to escape reality, so they don't. 9 times out of 10, unless you're Ring of Honor or WWE, nobody cares about your storylines, and nobody cares about who cheated on who or turned on who, unless, so people go to escape reality and want to go see a good show. So, yeah.
Right, and also depending on how often the shows are, if the shows are every few months, it might be harder to follow a storyline as well. You might want to just go there, get out of the house, see good wrestling, and, not think about the fact that your co-host is terrible. At least that's what I do when I go to a wrestling show.
Yeah, thank goodness for social media too, because people, true fans that love their local wrestling promotions, will actually watch the little story clips or something that are going on, and it's cool for the local people that'll actually come to the shows every time. But you get companies like Defy and PCW that they have their own inner stories, but nobody cares about them besides the people that go to the shows, the local people. So when you see guys especially Defy, because that's probably the biggest promotion in the Northwest right now, is Defy, especially because they're getting they have been getting huge talent every show. So
definitely, it could be definitely hard to follow, but it's cool because a lot of most I've noticed, especially around here, there's a lot of people, they go to every single show. They go for the VIP experience. They follow everybody on Twitter, Facebook. They retweet things, and they genuinely care about the performers, especially the local ones, and that's really cool to see that. There are some wrestling communities out there from a fan perspective where they care about the wrestling and the people in the ring, as much as the performers care themselves. And another thing we've kind of talked about is we've talked about how you talked about, especially in the Pacific Northwest, we've seen a lot of great wrestling, that it's getting better. And this isn't just, mainstream wrestling, a lot of independent scenes. And so what do you kind of attribute to fans, supporting more than just the mainstream WWE, Ring of Honor, and things like that, and going out and checking out different promotions?
I think it's because Seattle and Portland are definitely known for being very rebellious in punk rock. So, and especially the Northwest, I think it's because I don't know, it's one of those things that's almost kind of hard to explain. It's the kind of like the regional feel you get, because Ring of Honor is really big on the East Coast and kind of like the South, so they don't really venture out towards Midwest or even the West Coast too much. It's social media and things like Cody Rhodes coming from WWE, going to Ring of Honor. So people that kind of are getting pointed towards the independent scene are the reason why more independent scenes are popping up and more fans of independent wrestling are becoming of it because of I would hope because of more local wrestling. So
definitely. And now, for you, what have been some of the best moments for your career so far?
One of the top ones is probably winning the NWA Pacific Northwest Tag Team Championships with my trainer, Cameron Starr. Something that you almost kind of can't put into words. People, wrestle with their trainer, do this and that. When I'm able to, win a championship with my trainer, that's something that I definitely will take and always have near and dear to me forever. One thing that I am definitely proud of is being chosen to win the Pacific Northwest Cruiserweight Championship because like I said, I'm very proud to be from the Northwest. I'm very proud to be trained from the Northwest. So to be the champion of the Cruiserweight division in the Northwest, whether some people recognize it or not, I don't really give a fuck because if they want to challenge me, I have no problem leaving my inbox open and going to wherever I need to go to prove that my championship is just as legitimate as me. So probably being able to showcase that I'm one of the best to come out of the Northwest is probably one of the big things right now. Although there is one person who doesn't like that, and that's the person that got stripped from the title before I had won it, and that's the unbelievable Kane Jaden, who I will be facing in a month at Combat Pro Wrestling in Seattle for the Northwest Cruiserweight Championship. And that night, even I don't even know what the stipulation is going to be. It could be anything from a ladder match, first blood, street fight. I don't even know what it's going to be, but so something special is about to happen. Something very bloody and something very special is about to happen between Kane Jaden and I. But, the best is yet to come. So I can only think of a few moments right now, only because I'm always looking forward and I'm always wondering what's next. Like I said, right now, next week I'm wrestling not for my Cruiserweight Championship, but at another promotion. But my focus right now is making this championship well-known and pretty much opening the door to anybody that wants to prove that I'm not.
All right. Now, speaking of, we kind of touched on this earlier, your goal is to be the best in the world, eventually be one of the best ever. And what are your goals, though, for this year, 2018, to kind of advance yourself forward and get to that point eventually in your career?
Top goal 2018 is to get booked in 3 different regions. Right now I'm wrestling in the Northwest, and I definitely want to venture out to the East and to the Southeast. And the Midwest is a big, huge, booming community for wrestling. My tag team partner, Robert Von Ludwig, was actually a graduate of the Black and the Brave school. So that's one region that I definitely know that is one place that I want to work. I don't know how I'm going to interact. I don't know how the crowd's going to react with me. So 3 different regions that I want to work in 2018 is definitely one big goal. The next goal is to wrestle at least 5 top-name talent in the independent scene, and that's even guys like guys like Joey Janela that I would consider in the top talent scene, guys that are pretty well known across the wrestling world. And another goal is to wrestle in another country in 2018, whether that be Canada, Mexico, Japan. I just want to get my name out there, and I want to showcase great wrestling from the Pacific Northwest.
Definitely, and I think a good way to grow and kind of see what different audiences are out there is to definitely try to hit different regions and definitely get, an international feel for what's out there. Now, out of all the, you kind of touched on it, but who are some of your dream matches at this point in your career that you'd like to get in the ring with?
With all of the talks of Bryan Danielson leaving the WWE, that is one person that I would absolutely, that is number one dream match for me. I live about an hour away from where he grew up, and that has nothing to do with why he is somebody that I want to wrestle. But because he's the underdog story, and of course that would be somebody that I would love to wrestle if he does end up leaving WWE for Ring of Honor. Another big dream match with somebody on the independent scene. God, there's so many good talents right now. And I'm thinking, first things that come to mind are all like, guys like Joey Janela and ACH, guys that are also kind of like me, but also a little bit further in their careers. Oh man, there's so many good top name independent wrestlers. If I were to say another big dream match of mine that I would love to do, Ophidian, the Cobra from Chikara. Yeah.
All right, that's a big list. I mean, that's a good list, and like you said, there's so many great wrestlers out there right now. I mean, you could just throw a dart out there and hit one.
Exactly.
Now, is there any desire to stay active in wrestling once your career eventually does come to an end in ring-wise?
Oh, absolutely. I've always joked with, and I've been talking ever since I started training, opening up a school here in the Northwest. Ever since, the passing of Buddy Wayne, there's not really that kind of big name training school in the Northwest anymore. And there are a couple of people that I believe that can achieve that only because of who they are and where they come from and where they've gone. And that's not just my trainer. That's one person that comes to mind. My trainer, Cameron Starr, would be one person to help start a school that would be legitimate in the Pacific Northwest. But you got guys like Ethan HD, who, if you guys don't know who that is, you should definitely look him up. Came back a couple months ago from training in India. He was training the Great Khali's guys, and he's actually getting ready to go to New Zealand to train Bad Luck Fale's guys at his dojo. So definitely getting a training school, or at least being part of a training school here in the Pacific Northwest, is definitely a big goal outside of in-ring career-wise. Of course, I would love to work for a company like New Japan or WWE, doing something like writing or creative. I love writing and coming up with stories, and something different is something that I'd love to do. So, something involved with definitely helping the next generation, because that's what we're supposed to do. Is we're supposed to help the next generation do it and do it correctly, and do it differently. Like I said, evolution is always a big part of everything, and if you don't do it, you're left behind. So being able to help the next generation evolve and watching it evolve is definitely something that I want to be a part of after my in-ring career is over.
That's a good mentality to have. We've had the opportunity to have a couple different people talk about who are trainers, and they're very wary of nowadays because there's so many different schools out there, and not all those schools have the best intentions for their pupils. So it's good that you have a mentality where you want to help and see them grow, and that it helps inspire you as well, because that it shows that you're doing it for the right reasons.
Yep, and not doing it just for a paycheck, because a lot of schools out there are just doing what they're doing just to get sucker money out of marks that just want to be in a wrestling ring and learn wrestling moves and learn wrestling terms. When that's some schools, that's exactly all they want, is they just want money, and they don't care about what's going to happen with the house that they've built. So you kind of can't leave your house, to a bunch of spoiled, rotten little brats that aren't going to do anything. You know what I mean? So people that are just kind of opening up schools and taking money from people just to take money and not, and that's one thing that bugs me, because I hear stories all the time about there's guys in training schools that aren't very good, and still are, still their money is still taken, and they're still being put through all of this stuff just to be made fun of and not make it and all this and that, So there's a lot of schools that are out there to just take money from people, and that's exactly what's wrong with some people in the wrestling industry. They're just in it for the money. And money is great. I want to make money in this, and there's a way to do it, but there's also a way to not be greedy about it. And that's one big reason why schools are popping up, and few reputable schools are still around. It's because people are just money hungry nowadays.
It can make it unsafe for people as well, especially if they're just taking somebody's money, and they're eventually gonna be like, okay, you can wrestle, and it might not be good for anybody involved.
Exactly.
Now, what would be your advice actually then for anybody who's looking to get into professional wrestling?
So the closest thing that you can do to a training regimen, because there is a big difference from jumping on a treadmill and running for 20 minutes and running hard and running fast than having in-ring shape. And I learned that really quick. That there's a big difference. I could have ran on a treadmill all day long, and it doesn't prepare you for the shape that you need to be in to be a professional wrestler. And the pain that you have to withstand is not teeny. It can be severe sometimes. So my biggest advice to some people that want to get into the pro wrestling world, and it's not to hurt people's feelings, but it's it's for the better of everybody, and it's for the better of what I love to do, because I don't want to hurt anybody, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. So, and it is really hard. Like I said, it's really hard to get in-ring shape, but the closest thing that you can do to it is MMA training. So if you feel like that you can do MMA training, and that's like not getting in a cage and sparring with somebody, that's the cardio that they do, that's all the workout that's done. If you can handle something like that, as well as being able to get kicked, get slammed, lose your breath sometimes on a suplex, as well as keeping the mentality of what you need to do psychology-wise, it's very daunting. So for people that want to become a professional wrestler, that just want to go pay to learn moves, stick to the backyards. Stick to backyard wrestling, or just don't do it at all, because it's going to create cancers within this business, and it's going to make people get hurt, and it's going to ultimately kill the business. So the people that want to get into pro wrestling, make sure that you can withstand a lot. Biggest advice.
It's definitely solid advice. Now, how can our listeners keep up to date with you on social media?
So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Max Burnside PDX. I actually have a website as well, and the link is on all three of the social media sites. And also booking inquiries, you can contact me at maxburnsidetnw@gmail.com. Trying to work on a newer website so that way I can have my T-shirts that I've just got finished up for sale on my website, so that way I can have people order them and I can send them out and have all that good stuff. So keep on the lookout for that. But for now, it's just the basic Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course the website. That's the link on all three of those.
All right, awesome. And you did mention a couple dates you got coming up, but when can our listeners, if anybody is in your area, catch you in the ring again?
So the 24th next week, I'm actually going to be in Bremerton, Washington for Squamish Championship Wrestling. And we're actually going to have, from Ring of Honor, Kelly Klein. She's wrestling in a mixed tag match in the main event. And I'm wrestling a guy by the name of Donnie Amsterdam, who's also known as Pitfall Jones at 3-2-1 Battle. Great worker, great dude. I'm really excited for this. I'm also debuting my new shirts at this show, too. So I can't wait to see how many people want to wear a Max Burnside shirt. And then the next booking after that is March, I think it's 17th. I think it's the date. March 17th at Combat Pro Wrestling. I will be defending my Pacific Northwest Cruiserweight Championship against the unbelievable Kane Jaden in Seattle. And that one's going to be a barn burner because there's a stipulation that we don't even know until we get there that night. So that one is going to be one to watch on Facebook. I'm hoping everybody will have it on Instagram Live and all that good stuff.
All right, Devin, let us know what those links are, and we'll definitely help get those out on social media for you as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Now, before we let you go, we are going to unhinge the gimmick table. My host has a few questions here for you today that are going to kind of be a little more strange than you're probably used to.
Your host?
Co-host. Co-host.
If you guys know who Sign Guy is, from the Turnbuckle Turmoil podcast, he's also a worker and a referee. If you've ever done his podcast, no question is too strange. So shoot.
We might win.
I don't know. These are actually kind of tame for tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Whatever.
You're more wild on the weekdays. You're a strange man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It is what it is.
He tucked his girlfriend in tonight. He's all calm and welcome.
So yeah, we talked a lot a bit about anarchism and everything. So, we were talking about how it's not apocalyptic situation and stuff like that. However, I am the type of person that likes to perpetuate stereotypes. So,
wow.
I just figured I'd bring up some apocalypse characters from some movies and a couple TV shows. I don't know if you got some wrestlers that you think would fit these apocalypse characters.
Okay.
All right.
It's kind of like your tribe. Who would be your,
who would these guys
tribe?
be in?
It took me 5 words to explain it. Boom.
Yeah, but you didn't get the whole setup, and you didn't get to put the stereotype joke in there. So I put a lot of work into that.
Yeah, so you name something, and I give you the character that I'm kind of like.
Yeah, I mean.
Towards both?
Yeah, super easy. So we'll start off with an easy one. You guys share a common name, Mad Max. Who's your driver?
Oh, that's a good one. Because I love that movie. That's one of the reasons why I picked my name, and that's what I wanted to go by was Mad Max Burnside. But
well, you know what? We can make this a throwaway. You can be Mad Max.
I'll just be Mad Max. Yeah, how about that?
All right. So a real actual anarchist movie, V for Vendetta. The guy behind the mask.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to always call him Anonymous because that's what the guy from Anonymous wear too. I haven't watched that movie all the way through either, to be honest with you. Only because I have ADHD, so sometimes my mind doesn't let me sit through 2-hour movies.
It's a little tough.
Well, I think.
So who's the masked? Who's your masked wrestling guy?
Who's your Guy Fawkes?
Yeah, that's his name. Yeah, Guy Fawkes. That's the name of the mask.
Is that his name?
I guess. Yeah. He's just V though.
Well, but the mask is Guy Fawkes.
Yeah,
I think.
You're right.
I really hope so because I just sound like an idiot if he is. I'm not.
I think you're right. I think it is V.
All right. So who's your man with the mask?
Oh, the guy with the mask, Guy Fawkes. Is that what his name is?
Yeah, but
who's your wrestler for him?
You guys ever heard of the Bird?
No.
He's a wrestler. You should definitely look into him. 3-2-1 battle. Definitely the Bird.
All right. Who you got next on your list, Bats? Who's the next character?
All right. You ever see Blade Runner?
Yes.
Yeah. Rick Deckard, Harrison Ford's character. He's a synth.
I'm not good with character names.
Is he though?
Oh God. Let's see here. What's his name? Deckard.
Yeah.
Rick Deckard. That's his name. Although I am more of. I guess I don't know. I guess I could be more of a Roy.
Did you cut out again?
I don't know. I could be maybe more of a Roy.
Who's Roy?
One of the characters. It was one of the. I can't remember. One of the scenes. I can't remember exactly which ones. Now I'm gonna have to go through these and watch these. Like I said, I got ADHD, so I'm trying to remember the scene that it's from. And I also get that and Total Recall mixed up too, which is another good movie.
Oh yeah, totally. I didn't even put that on the list. I guess that's not really apocalypse. That's just like living on Mars and having the apocalypse happen on Mars. Because that's
exactly.
I guess, yeah. All right. What about who do you think would be? I got a female character here, so we got a women wrestler for Alice from Resident Evil series.
Oh,
Who's your badass gun wielding chick?
Oh man, and I really hate what they're doing with her right now. But Asuka is just such a beast.
Oh yeah, that she actually. If you had to remake that series, she
beat everybody in 20 minutes. It wouldn't be a very good movie.
She beat everybody in 20 minutes just with her heel kick.
She just kicked the head off all the zombies.
Spinning heel kick all them in their face.
All right. You ever see the movies Escape from New York or Escape from L.A.?
Kurt Russell.
Oh, yeah.
Snake Plissken.
Snake Plissken.
Yeah. Who's your grizzled ancient wrestler buddy?
Ricky Shane Page.
Okay. All right. Here's a weird one. Wally.
Who's your Wally?
My Wally. Somebody. Wally's a deep movie too. So if you really
deep.
actually think about like Wally and his like perspective and what is going on around him, that's a good one.
Wait, so time out. You ADD'd out on all these other movies, but not Wally? Because I had a problem getting through that in one sitting.
It's a cartoon.
And it's the future. We all have ADD or ADHD. Doesn't matter.
Well,
it gets heavy too.
Hearing about how like Wall-E is like Idiocracy, but a cartoon version.
Yeah.
It made me curious to want to like actually watch it, and then actually reading some stuff about what the story is about. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I did kind of ADD on everything else only because. I don't know.
They weren't cartoons.
Maybe because it was older in life. I watched older in life, and I watched Wall-E. Then I watched movies like Escape from New York and Escape from L.A. and Blade Runner and Mad Max. Even though I watched that one recently, but I think the wrestler. I don't know. I kind of see myself in Wall-E, but I also see my trainer kind of like in the same sense. Like I said, it's kind of weird when you actually think about what Wall-E is and kind of like his perspective on what's going on around him. It's kind of deep and dark.
That's true.
Yeah, man.
I hear. Now you brought up another movie there, so I'm gonna have to throw his name on the list right now. President Camacho.
Tectonic.
I set you up and you knocked it down.
If he's not wearing an American flag top hat, by the next time I see him, we're not friends anymore.
All right, that's a good one to end on.
So it's a win-win situation.
It's a win-win situation.
All right, Max, thank you for joining us today. This was a lot of fun, and I can say your perspective on professional wrestling and how you do things is really refreshing, and it's so fucking awesome, and we wish you the best of luck out there.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'll definitely be keeping following you guys, and I hope you guys do the same.
Thank you very much.
Man. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, man. Have a good one.
You as well.
Thank you. And that does it for us here today. Thank you for joining us, and thank you once again to Max Burnside for joining us and sharing his perspective on wrestling, how he got into wrestling. And it was a really cool time. A lot of interesting topics, a variety of stuff that we discussed. Definitely like those Pacific Northwest folks. They got an interesting mind out there.
Yeah, and at the very least, you all learned a little bit something about anarchism.
Yeah, you can put those misconceptions aside, move forward and grow. Right, Bats? You need to grow. A beer. Oh, man.
I mean, it's just not like a big family trait, I guess.
It's not viable for your face, I
Yeah,
guess.
sure.
Make sure you give our guest Max a follow. You can get all the social media stuff right on our website, gimmicktable.pod.com. make sure you subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasting fix from. You can also interact with us on social media. We're on Twitter at @gimmick_table. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. Just search the Gimmick Table Wrestling Podcast. And like we already mentioned, we got the gimmicktablepod.com where you can find all our interviews, cover art, and our contest as well. We got our $30 gift card contest right now to Pro Wrestling Tees going, just for supporting the 607 Strong Academy. And all you got to do for your chance to win is go to gimmicktablepod.com/contest for all the details. And we want to give a shout out to the Podcasting World Order. They are our friends in the podcasting world, obviously.
Oh, I wonder how you put that together.
That was a tough one. And they're available on all major platforms like iTunes and Google Play. We got the WNA podcast, Wretched Wrestling, Smart Spot podcast.
Boar Meets World.
Yeah, I didn't tell you about that. So rumor has it that Raw is Boar has shut off their microphones, and they're gonna, starting up a new project called Boar Meets World, and you can only imagine what that's about, Bats. They're gonna be taking an in-depth look, I believe, at the hit. Seriously?
Sorry.
Really? So yeah, apparently Cade has no respect for the on-air sign above his head, and he's just walking around working on his art project. But yes, Boar Meets World.
Wait, do we still get to say it the same?
Boar Meets World! That doesn't sound
It
good.
doesn't
Boar
sound.
Meets World. Boar Meets World.
So I can only imagine this is going to be about Ben Savage.
I think they have a secret love affair for Ben Savage, and this is kind of gonna really let them cope in, a therapeutic way of dealing with this obsession they've had for the last decade.
How do you keep Ben Savage from jumping on your bed?
How?
Put Velcro on the ceiling.
Jesus. And of course, we cannot forget about the Brocast. You may not know this. I believe Tom, a branch fell on his car, so make sure you support them so he can get a new windshield, make them the most popular
Literally
podcast.
everything in Australia tries to kill you.
Yes.
Even the trees,
Even
apparently.
Even the trees are deadly. Maybe we should send Cade there for screwing up the outro. No, because... Wait, am I in your will to get your laptop? Okay, we're not sending him to Australia. Alright, guys. We'll be back next week. Cade will be here as well still.
See ya.